The incident had finished and nothing else was really happening and everyone else probably moved on. But inside me, it was still going on. I kept replaying it, questioning it, and feeling the same anger running through my body. I knew I was safe. I knew I needed to let go, but my mind and my body just didn't get that message. By the time the moment had passed for everyone else, I was still fighting something that was no longer happening. That is one of the parts of PTSD that people don't always see. And today, on this video, that's what we're going to talk about. If you watched the last video and the video before that, thank you for coming back. If it's your first time here, I'm Lee. I'm an ex-serving army soldier and I am living with PTSD and complex depression. My experiences come from military service, but this channel is not only for veterans. You may never have served and you may be experiencing something completely different. You may be supporting someone or trying to understand your own feelings or simply here to listen. In the last video, I talked about the hidden cost of looking okay. Why filming that? I was actually dealing with something that happened earlier on in the day. I was angry, I was unsettled, and I was struggling to move forward. On that video as well, I could have just hidden that and portrayed everything was fine, but that would have gone against the reason I started this channel. So several hours have passed, the incident was on the forefront of my mind, and that incident made me realise there's another part of the story that's worth telling. So why can something that's happening for a few moments stay with me for the rest of the day? Why can I understand logically that situation has actually finished, but my body keeps on reacting as if it's not? And why can just let go feel almost impossible? This is only my personal experience because PTSD affects everyone in different ways, and anger and emotional overload can come from many causes. The incident itself might seem very, very small, but earlier that morning I found that someone had chucked cat mess out of their garden that landed around my car, on the car park and on the car. But the details are not really the important part. What matters is the reaction it caused me inside. I just felt that someone had shown complete disrespect for my personal space and my property. Being angry about something like that is not unusual because most people would. The difference for me is how strongly I reacted and how long the reaction stayed with me. I cleaned it up, so the physical problem itself had gone, but mentally, it was nowhere near finished. My mind kept returning to it. Why would someone do that? Was it deliberate? Did they care that it could actually affect someone else? And what sort of person behaves like that? So one question led to another, and then my thoughts started searching beyond the single incident. It became about disrespect. Then it became about trusting people. Then it became about all the other times that I felt somebody behaving badly or treating another person unfairly. And before long, I was no longer only reacting to something that happened that morning. It felt as though my mind had opened up a filing cabinet and pulled out every similar experience it could find. The original incident might have been over, but the reaction was growing. That's when I knew I'd been knocked sideways. So people use the word trigger in many, many different ways now. And for me, a trigger is simply not something that makes me angry. It's something that causes a stronger reaction within inside me. So sometimes I understand immediately why something's affected me, and other times I only recognise it afterwards. The incident might be happening in the present, but the strength of the reaction can feel connected to much more than a single moment. The body can become tense, the mind can speed up, I can feel heat and anger running through me. My jaw might tighten, my breathing may change, and I can become more alert to everything that's happening around me. The smallest additional problem can then feel much bigger because I'm already carrying the reaction. A noise, a comment, something not going to plan, they could just all add another layer. And from the inside, I might look in control. I may continue talking, filming, driving and getting on with the day. But inside, I'm just trying to manage that everything that's been set off in motion. And it doesn't mean that every feeling I have is caused by PTSD. Sometimes I get angry because something was generally wrong. Sometimes I'm just tired, stressed, or simply having a bad day. So I do not want to blame every emotion on my diagnosis. The difference I notice is when the intensity of the reaction feels much greater than the situation in front of me, or when the situation is finished, but the body remains alert. And that is when I know there's probably more going on. So why can't I simply just switch off? People sometimes say, try not to think about it. Do not let it ruin your day. Just let it go. And most of the time, people mean well. And the truth is, most of the time, I'm already probably telling myself to do the same thing. I know the incident is over. I know that replaying it will not change what happened. I know carrying the anger is affecting me than the person or situation that caused it. But knowing that doesn't immediately stop the reaction. It can feel as though there's two parts of me working at the same time. One part understands facts. That part knows where I am, what has happened, and that there's no immediate danger. The other part is still scanning, questioning, and preparing. They're still trying to work out whether something else is going to happen. During military service, being alert, reacting quickly, and noticing potential problems could be useful. You dealt with a situation in front of you and remain prepared for what could happen next. But when that way of reacting follows you in everyday life, it can become exhausting. A situation that can be with a person for about 10 minutes can remain with me all day. I can replay conversations, question whether I handled it properly. I can even go over different outcomes, although none of them have actually happened. It's like the brain's trying to solve something that's actually no longer needing a solution. And the more I tell myself that I should have moved on, the more frustrated I can become with myself. And now I'm not only angry about the original incident, I'm also angry because I'm still angry. And that is a difficult cycle to break. Other people may only see the outside of that reaction. They may notice that I've become quieter. My answers may become shorter, may seem distracted and less patient. I may want to leave somewhere earlier than we'd originally planned. And sometimes I just may need silence because every other additional noise may just feel like one more thing I need to process in my mind. And I've got to remember that the people around me may not know what happened earlier. They only see me now and that my mood has changed. And that could be difficult for Jodie or your partner because they ain't done anything wrong, but she's beside someone now that's all tense, distracted and possibly struggling to communicate. And it's not fair for me to expect her to read my mind. And I'm trying to become better at explaining everything that's happening before it affects everyone else around me. And sometimes that can be as simple as saying, I know it's not your fault, but I need a little space for my head to settle. And those few words can make a big difference. They don't immediately fix how I feel, but they can give the other person some context. Also, it can help me stop pretending that everything's fine. And this is something even now I'm still learning. There are times when I can recognize it quickly, I can communicate well. And there are other times when I only realize it afterwards and that everything around me had already become too difficult. I have to be honest about that. PTSD affects me, but it also affects the people that care about me, and their experiences matter as well. PTSD may help me explain why I can react in a certain way, but it doesn't give me permission to treat people badly. My feelings can be real. My reaction inside my body can be real, but I'm still responsible for what I do with that reaction. Feeling angry is not the same as acting aggressively. There is space between the feeling and the decision I make next. And sometimes that space may feel very small, but it is still there. And part of my recovery has actually been learning how to create more room in that space. I can step away before I say something I regret. I can recognise that the person in front of me is not necessarily responsible for everything I'm feeling. I can actually tell someone that I'm struggling without them feeling responsible for fixing it. Being told to calm down rarely helps me when I'm already overwhelmed, because usually I know I need to calm down. And being reminded of that can make me feel like I'm failing at something that I'm already trying hard to do. And being told that other people have worse problems don't help either. Someone else experiencing something worse does not automatically switch off what is happening inside me. The first thing that helps is recognising something's happening. It sounds simple, but it's taken me years to become better at it. When I notice my thoughts speeding up and my body starting to become tense and my patience disappearing, I try to stop and acknowledge it. Something has affected me. I have been triggered, and now I know I'm not just only dealing with the situation in front of me anymore. Recognising it doesn't make that feeling vanish, but it does help me make sense of it. The next thing is creating some space. If I can safely step away from the situation, that is not always about avoiding the actual problem, because sometimes stepping away is what helps me be able to return to it and deal with the problem. I may go for a walk, I may just sit somewhere quiet. I may even come back to the motorhome because it's a familiar place where I feel I can control my surroundings. I can shut the door, reduce the noise, and give my mind less information to process. As I said in the last video, the motorhome is simply not just a vehicle to me. It's a safe space and helps me remain active in life, because knowing that space is available means I don't always have to abandon the whole day. I can step away, settle myself, and decide whether I'm able to continue. Physical movement can also help me. Walking or going to the gym, it gives somewhere for that energy, that extra energy to go. And being outdoors can create a bit of space between me and the incident. Start noticing the weather, the trees, the paths, the sounds around me. The thoughts may still be there, but they're no longer the only thing demanding my attention. When I filmed the last video at Veterans in Action and getting involved, talking to the lads, focusing on the work, it helped me feel better than I did that morning. And it did not erase what had happened. I just gave my attention somewhere more useful to go. And sometimes speaking honestly just reduces the pressure. I no longer have to use part of my energy in pretending that nothing is wrong. I also try and remind myself of what is happening now. The incident has ended. I'm somewhere else. I don't have to solve anything immediately, so I don't need to make decisions while I'm angry. I can return back to the situation when I'm thinking more clearly. And these are things that I've learned over years of therapy, experience, and getting things wrong. They're not magic tricks. They don't work perfectly every time. There are still days when something may stay hanging over me longer than I want it to. But the aim is not to become someone that actually never feels angry. The aim is to stop the anger from controlling my day or be demanding on people around me. Sometimes I manage that well. Sometimes I can only reduce the demand and recover later. Both are still better than pretending that nothing is happening. Even when I sort of manage a reaction, it can leave me exhausted afterwards. Being tense and alert for several hours takes energy. The motivation disappears, and something that began as a small incident has now affected me the whole day. That is another hidden cost. People might see the moment where I appear irritable or angry. They may not see the hours before trying to manage that and the exhaustion that comes afterwards. And I used to judge myself heavily for that because I thought I should be able to control it better. I thought that after all that therapy and all the years that have passed, I should not still react in that same way. But judging myself does not help me recover. I still need to take responsibility for my behaviour, but I can do that without treating myself as a failure. I can look at what happened. I can recognise what I handled well, what I could have done differently. If I owe someone an apology, give them one. Then I can try and let that day end without carrying all that into tomorrow. Progress does not mean I will never be triggered again. It does not mean I will never become angry, overwhelmed or exhausted. For me, progress means recognising the signs earlier. It can mean telling Jodie something that's happened, expecting her to know what's inside my head. It can mean recovering in hours rather than something controlling several days. Sometimes progress simply means recognising afterwards what happened and learning from it. There'll still be setbacks. A reaction may catch me by surprise. Something I thought I could handle, I may suddenly feel it's much harder to. And that doesn't mean all the previous work has simply disappeared. Recovery is not about getting everything right. It's about continue to learn and taking responsibility for your next decision. The incident that morning was real. My anger was real. The effect it had on me was real. But none of these things had to decide everything I did. I still went to VIA. I still filmed a video. I spent time outdoors, spoke to people and got involved. By the end of the day, I felt much better. And it doesn't mean I defeated PTSD that day. It means the trigger didn't get the final say. To me, that's progress. So although my experiences come from military service and complex PTSD, you do not have to share my background to understand that feelings can stay with you. You may live with anxiety, depression, or something completely different. You may be living with someone who simply their reactions you just don't understand. Or perhaps you recognise of being told to let that feeling go when you generally don't know how. There's a place for you within this conversation. And if you recognise yourself in what we've talked about today, please remember that asking for help doesn't mean having to have a perfect explanation. You can begin by saying, something is happening inside me and I'm struggling to manage it. That can be enough to start a conversation. The moment will pass, but sometimes the reaction stays with me. I cannot always choose what triggers that reaction, but I can keep learning how to respond to it. And I can try again if I don't get it right. That's part of the journey. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video has helped you understand something about yourself or someone you care about, please consider subscribing to The Journey Unmasked. And if you feel comfortable, tell me in the comments what helps you settle after a difficult moment. You do not need to share the details of what's happened, just something that's helped you find calm. And please remember that I'm sharing my personal experience, not offering professional medical advice. Support information, as always, is in the description if you need to look at it. And I'll see you on the next one.